I'm Montse Alvarado. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly. More attacks in Eastern Europe as Russia launches missiles and drones into Ukraine, what President Trump is now saying. More than 200 faith groups call for an investigation of a UN relief agency in Gaza, why they say it's enabling Hamas. The congressional maps will be redrawn in Texas, what it could mean for the rest of the country. Plus, a new study says the number of adults converting to Catholicism is growing. We take a detailed look. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the feast of Pope St. Pius X. Our top story tonight, just days after President Donald Trump sat down with Russia's Vladimir Putin in Alaska to try to end the fighting in Ukraine, Russia continues its relentless assaults. The latest, over 500 Russian drones and 40 missiles targeting Western regions and an American-owned company. Ukraine's president condemned the attacks, urging stronger international pressure on Moscow. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
Montse, good evening to you. While President Donald Trump has been working to arrange a bilateral meeting between Zelensky and Putin, today on Truth Social, he posted his clear frustration with a battlefield picture.
President Donald Trump, who earlier this week met with President Zelensky and European leaders to find a path to peace, vents on social media. It is very hard, if not impossible, to win a war without attacking an invader's country. It's like a great team in sports that has a fantastic defense but is not allowed to play offense. There's no chance of winning. It is like that with Ukraine and Russia. Crooked and grossly incompetent Joe Biden would not let Ukraine fight back, only defend. How did that work out? Overnight, Russia launched a major attack on Ukraine, killing or injuring several people. Russia's third largest aerial attack this year by drone count. In Lviv, a nursery school among the buildings damaged, windows and doors blown out. And the Flex factory, an American-owned electronics plant, also struck. It's near the Hungarian border. 6 workers hurt. Russia has fired nearly 1,000 long-range drones and missiles at Ukraine since Monday's White House talks, according to Ukraine. Today, Vladimir Putin meeting with India's foreign minister at the Kremlin, boosting trade ties. And on the White House North Lawn, presidential counselor Peter Navarro tells EWTN the U.S. will keep secondary tariffs on India for buying Russian oil.
Then the Russians use the money to build more arms and kill Ukrainians, and so American taxpayers have to provide more aid, military style, to the Ukrainians. So that's insane.
Following up on that question on India, the doubling of tariffs to 50% is supposed to take place August 27th, just 6 days from now. Do you see that taking place? Doubling
I see
of tariffs?
that taking place. India doesn't appear to want to recognize its role in the bloodshed.
Now, back to that Russian attack in western Ukraine, hitting the Flex factory, the American-owned business. The American Chamber of Commerce in Ukraine says Russia is humiliating American business. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
Thanks so much, Owen. Well, now to the war in the Middle East. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he will push ahead with the takeover of Gaza City. He also says he will participate in renewed ceasefire talks. This comes as more than 200 faith organizations and non-governmental groups call for an investigation into a UN relief agency in Gaza, which they say is enabling Hamas. A letter asks for more United Nations support for the U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. It also calls for a formal investigation into the UN Relief and Works Agency's operations in Gaza. Multiple reports accuse UNRWA of having ties to Hamas and other terror organizations. For more, we turn to Chapin Faye, spokesman for the U.S.-backed Gaza Humanitarian Fund. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you give me background on the Humanitarian Fund? When did it start and why was it important for it to exist?
Sure. The Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is an independent, neutral humanitarian aid organization with one mission and one mission alone: to feed the people of Gaza in a way that Hamas or any other armed force or actor cannot steal the aid. And we have done so to the tune of 132 million meals as of today. We began in May, so that's 132 million meals in less than 3 months with zero aid diversion. One of the main reasons we were created was in response to the prior legacy system, which was a failure because of diversion. By its own estimates, even currently now, as it's delivering aid, the United Nations has a 90% record of getting their aid diverted. We put meals directly into the hands of the people of Gaza, and we're proud of our record in doing that.
And this is a U.S. and Israel-backed effort?
So it is a United States-based nonprofit incorporated in Delaware. The only interaction we have with the government of Israel is that we are approved to operate as a humanitarian organization by the government of Israel, as is the United Nations and any other aid organization that wants to operate in Gaza. We are not affiliated with the government of Israel, and we do not take any funding from the government of Israel. We do work with the IDF to deconflict outside the sites. We are responsible for the safety and security of our sites as we deliver the aid. And the IDF, of course, is waging war and responsible for the rest of Gaza, the safety and security of the rest of Gaza.
Well, tell us a little more about the letter to the United Nations and some of the groups that are collaborating with signatures.
Sure. So just last week, over 200 international NGOs, some faith-based, some civil and humanitarian, over 200 of them from over 15 countries sent a public letter to the United Nations urging the United Nations and other international NGOs to collaborate with GHF. They requested collaboration in the form of logistics and financial support. They also requested that any organization that has policies in place that would hinder the GHF's work to stop those policies, and also to do an investigation into the past system and why aid was being diverted and unable to get to where it's going.
So what are the major concerns? I know you mentioned some of them, but are there any other major concerns with working with the UN Relief and Works Agency, also known as UNRWA?
Well, so GHF believes that more aid is the answer to many of the problems in Gaza. We are very happy to see that airdrops began a couple of weeks ago, but are concerned that those aren't 100% safe either. We are glad that the UN got off the sidelines a couple of weeks ago and started to move their trucks further into Gaza. But you can see on social media that it's creating a very unsafe situation. At best, thousands of desperate aid seekers, people in Gaza are swarming the trucks. The drivers are being pulled out. People are getting run over or trampled. And at worst, you see armed people like Hamas looting the trucks.
Really quick, has there been any response yet to your letter?
Reverend Johnny Moore has met with the United Nations. We do not have a response or a path forward yet. I believe those conversations are ongoing. He reported back to us that his meeting was productive. We have seen some of the rhetoric start to ratchet down against us. As the world comes to realize that this is one of the most complex humanitarian crises of our lifetime, and it's happening in an active war zone. So you have to take special precautions, and you have to do things a little differently and uniquely, which is what GHF does. We innovate every single day. We have conversations every single day with the aid seekers. A lot of the methods we use are our ideas directly from the aid seekers. So we're going to keep doing that, and we're happy to work with anyone else. More aid is the answer, and anyone willing to help us pump more aid into directly into the hands of the people who need it most, we're willing to work with you, and we would welcome that collaboration.
Well, I know everyone's grateful for your courageous work. Thank you so much. Chapin Fay, spokesman for the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, on why more than 200 groups are raising concerns over the UN Relief and Works Agency. Thank you. A major legal win for President Donald Trump. A New York appeals court has tossed out the massive $500 million civil fraud penalty against him. The court ruled that the fine was excessive, but upheld findings that Trump exaggerated his wealth. Trump called the ruling a, quote, total victory, slamming the case as politically motivated. President Donald Trump is calling Texas lawmakers' approval of a sweeping redistricting plan a big win for Republicans. It will add 5 new GOP-leaning congressional seats, but now the attention is turning to California, where the state Republicans are suing to stop Democrats from pushing their redistricting plan forward. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us with the latest. Eric?
Well, good evening, Monse. Yes, let's start in the Lone Star State, the state of Texas, where last night the Texas House passed a Republican redistricting bill giving the GOP the advantage. Now, the measure now heads to the state Senate, and the move follows a 2-week standoff when Democrats fled the state to block the measure. Democrats claim that the bill is nothing more than a power grab that weakens non-white voters' influence.
The people of America are watching and they are ignited to fight back. Texas Democrats stood up, they resisted, and now we're seeing resistance across this country. Americans are not going to allow Donald Trump to lean more into authoritarianism.
Texas Democrats say the upcoming 2026 election will be key. Republicans argue, unlike California, the Texas state constitution allows them to make congressional map changes, and it was Democrats who walked out on the process.
Don't come into this body and say we didn't include you. You left us for 18 days, and that's wrong.
Once the bill is approved by the Senate, Governor Greg Abbott is expected to sign it into law. Meanwhile, in California, state Republicans are urging the state Supreme Court to stop Governor Gavin Newsom from moving forward with his push to redraw congressional districts. 4 GOP state lawmakers filed a lawsuit on Tuesday in California's Supreme Court.
We have a governor, we have political insiders, we have legislators who are breaking California's constitution by drawing congressional maps behind closed doors with no transparency.
California Supreme Court rejected the GOP lawsuit, and the U.S. Supreme Court is not taking up the case, at least for now. But state Republicans plan to file other lawsuits in the near future. So Governor Gavin Newsom plans to continue with his plan to hold a special election this year to obtain voter approval to undo the constitutional amendments that created the nonpartisan redistricting commission. A 2/3 vote is needed. And former President Barack Obama is endorsing the idea while speaking at a fundraiser for the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, a group that works to fight gerrymandering. Obama called California's stance, quote, a responsible approach. And it is important to note that other states are also considering to redraw their congressional maps, states like New York, Maryland, and Wisconsin, so the floodgates may soon be opening. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly. Monse.
A senior aide to former President Joe Biden testified today before the House Oversight Committee about Biden's mental capacity while in office. It's part of a GOP-led investigation into what it calls a cover-up of Biden's mental decline. Ian Sams was a special assistant to President Biden and a senior advisor in the White House counsel's office. He later worked for the Harris campaign. Sams is testifying voluntarily. The panel also says it's investigating pardons and other executive actions Biden made while in office. We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly, including fighting for life. A grandmother from New Jersey is facing new charges after a protest at an abortion clinic. Joan Bell joins us next. And pro-lifers are mourning the loss of the founder of Focus on the Family, right after the break. A grandmother from New Jersey is facing new charges after a protest at an abortion center in nearby Pennsylvania. 77-year-old Joan Bell is one of 6 people facing charges for disrupting services at Delaware County Women's Center on July 31st. The center provides medical abortions. Bell and 5 others were arraigned today. Joan Bell and her husband Chris join us now. Joan, what happened in court today?
It was good. We had so many beautiful pro-life attorneys show up to be with us, stand with us, and support our defense of the babies. So we weren't arraigned, and we're not sent back to jail, which could have happened if we didn't have lawyers there, but we had good lawyers. And so they're putting our case probably into October 8th or maybe into November. That's when we'll go to trial.
And Chris, you've stood by Joan's side through all of this. Tell us, how has this experience been for you, sitting there waiting to hear if they would send her back to jail?
Well, it's always a good day when she's out of jail and free. And we know that the Department of Justice is not going to come knocking on the door as they did under the last Democratic administration. And we're very grateful. And even when we're separated, we know it's a sacrifice, and a very, very small sacrifice, because every day in this nation, babies are still dying, innocent, defenseless children, whether it's through the abortion pill or surgical abortions. So any little bit we can do to help and this witness, and please God, it reminds people how dastardly it is. And on July 31st, and Joan was thrilled. She didn't know this because she was imprisoned a week after the rescue, that 8 women who were in that abortion office were told to leave. They were not given the abortion pill. They were not given a surgical abortion. So we know that no abortions were done that day.
And they all got literature, because everyone I handed literature to for alternatives took the literature. And inside too, many had the literature.
Those are lives saved.
About alternatives to abortion.
That's so beautiful. Those are wonderful lives saved. Joan, tell us, you were recently pardoned by President Trump for your activities at other abortion clinics after spending time in prison. Was there any part of you that said maybe you should sit with this one out? Maybe you had done enough?
Oh, you can never do enough. God never said he, stopped at any point, said he did enough for us. Been conceived, that would have been enough to save us. But he did everything. So I think there's never a point we can say I've done enough. So I just try to always be obedient to our dear Lord.
Amen to that. Well, Chris, what message do you have for prosecutors who continue to charge your wife?
Well, for any judge or any prosecutors or any members of the jury, they still have to look at the reality that an abortion is the taking of an innocent baby. And it's inhuman, it's degrading, and it hurts women, and it destroys the soul of men as well, and siblings. One of my ministries is helping those who've had post-abortion trauma, and we have retreats for men and women and siblings. So we know abortion affects so much, and there's so much anger in our nation today, and so much tearing up of society. And I think a lot of it has to do with the destruction of the babies, and we have to bring about peace. So we pray for those who are involved in abortion. We pray that they see the reality and they come to know the love and forgiveness and mercy of Jesus Christ.
Well, Joan and Chris Bell, thank you for your courage and your witness for life. We're praying for you.
Thanks so much, Monty.
God bless you.
And some sad news to report tonight. Judge Frank Caprio, a Catholic known for showing mercy in his rulings, has died. Caprio served as a municipal court judge in Providence, Rhode Island for nearly 40 years. He was known as America's nicest judge and gained worldwide fame for his lenient style that blended justice with mercy. He also was the subject of a long feature piece by EWTN News' Colin Flynn. Caprio died after a battle with pancreatic cancer. He was 88 years old. Pro-lifers are mourning the loss of James Dobson, founder of Focus on the Family and a longtime opponent of abortion and same-sex marriage. Dobson used his background in child psychology to start a radio show counseling Christians on how to be good parents. He also served as an advisor to 3 presidents, including Donald Trump. His death was announced by his Colorado Springs-based institute. He was 89 years old. A new report says the Catholic Church in the United States appears to be entering a period of renewed growth. The findings are from Catholic researcher Shane Schatzel. He examined numbers from several groups and found that last year, for the first time since 2000, more adults entered the church than left it. He also projects that this year, 160,000 adult Americans will enter the church. In 2020, the number was 70,000. For more, we turn to Hans Plate, founder and president of Vinea Research, which consults with a wide number of Catholic groups, including the USCCB. Hans, thank you so much for joining us. First off, the findings from Shane Schatzel. He meticulously lays out his data on his X account. Do his numbers look right to you?
Well, he certainly shares a lot of information on his X account. It was interesting to go through that. And let me just focus on 2 of them. One interesting finding is that, as he notes, adult conversions are on the rise in the U.S. for the first time in a very long time. And that is very much true. So we looked at the data that CARA has on adult baptisms and the number of those that are coming into full communion with the church. And we're seeing a rise for the first time in a number of decades. which is consistent with some of the other data that we've seen as well. He also has data that outlines the number that are joining versus leaving the church and multi-year projections. He doesn't actually provide the data behind the modeling that he does, but that, I guess I would think, is a little bit overly optimistic. In part because there's a really large study that came out from Pew earlier this year, which showed that for every Catholic that enters the church, 8 leave the church. And I think that's overly pessimistic. So I think the answer is somewhere in between. And so the projections, I think, are something that we want to take a little bit of a closer look at. However, there are in general signs elsewhere that definitely point to something positive happening in the church in America.
Well, that's something positive that is happening, whether it's that surge in U.S. adults entering the Catholic Church or something else. What do you attribute to that surge? What is causing that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like we live in a post-Christian society where God has been pushed aside. There's this concept called deaths of despair, and those have been going up dramatically since the 2000s. People are looking for meaning. They're not finding in what society has to offer. At the same time, the church in the U.S., actually Matt Fradd put out a great video on all the great number of outstanding apostolates that we currently have in the U.S. and the good things that are happening within the church proper, such as the Eucharistic revival and the Congress that happened last year. And people who are looking for meaning and not finding it in society are finding authenticity and meaning in the Catholic Church, which I think is contributing to some of the trends that we are seeing.
Could it be that a high-profile event like that had something to do with the growth, with the exposure people have had to the church?
I think so. I really do think so. So we're doing a little bit of research for them as well, and we're just hearing some positive signals from places that are a little bit surprising to us, without going into too much depth as to what those are. But I mean, there are some signals around that, and I do think that the revival itself is having a really profound impact on Catholics all over the country.
Now, Hans, very quickly, is having an American Pope having some kind of an impact on these numbers of people coming into the church?
Yeah. Well, so I referenced the undercurrents of other signs of information that are really positive happening in the church, in particular with the Gen Z. And I think it's almost perfect timing that we have an American Pope right now. I almost think of the verse in Isaiah, right? Every valley is lifted up and the mountains and hills are made low. It's like that kind of a moment where having an American Pope can only help with some of the positive signs that we're seeing at all sorts of levels here.
Especially hearing him speak in English. Well, Hans, thank you so much for being with us and for your analysis.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And finally tonight, a Catholic group recently took part in an initiative calling for the protection of all humanitarian workers. EWTN Vatican News correspondent Valentina Di Donato has more.
Nearly 128 humanitarian workers have been killed so far in 2025 while carrying out their work in war zones across the globe, an increase from last year. To honor those who have fallen and defend those who are still alive, Caritas Internationalis, the humanitarian action arm of the Catholic Church, has just launched an appeal in the defense of aid workers.
Even we have cases when, for example, different armed groups are just going through the front line, getting into some village near the front line, putting the gun to the head of the elderly person and saying, please call to volunteers asking to come to do an evacuation. And they do such a things. And when the volunteers with their transport are coming to evacuate this person, they were captured, they were killed, the transport were taken.
Speaking about the war between Ukraine and Russia, Hehori Seleshkuk says that much of what is driving these increased casualties is due to what he calls the war economy.
Both countries are producing more and more advanced weapons, and right now this is different types of drones. We have so many types of them that you cannot even imagine this. And now the drones from Russian Federation are going further, are becoming quicker and bringing more explosions.
Pope Leo XIV recently said at the relief of the Eastern Church's meetings that it is disheartening to see that the force of international and humanitarian law no longer seems to be binding, replaced by the presumed right to coerce others by force. Victor Janina, Director of Integral Human Development for Caritas Internationales, says that the lack of respect for international humanitarian institutions and laws is a crisis that must be dealt with.
Yes, we need a lot of prayer, but we need also a lot of advocacy actions to put pressure on states that do not want to respect international humanitarian law and humanitarian workers, and especially civilian populations. Please help us to tell them that we cannot let this to continue happening in total impunity. We need to stop this for the well-being of all of us, believers and non-believers.
Humanitarian work in places of conflict is meant to help people rebuild and become resilient. But according to Hehori, it is also a witness to the faith.
For me, it was a question, do I trust God? Or I try to kind of to avoid the mission and the call that I'm in, which is before me. Definitely at that moment, I understood that I need to stand with my people. I need to help to organize assistance of Caritas the way it was done.
In Rome, Valentina Di Donato for EWTN News Nightly.
Today, the Church celebrates the feast of Pope St. Pius X. Pius X was born Giuseppe Sarto in 1835 and ascended to the office of the papacy in 1903. As Pope, he promoted frequent reception of the Eucharist, allowed children to receive First Communion at an earlier age, and advocated for the active participation of the laity during the liturgy. He passed away in 1914 and was canonized in 1954 by Pope Pius XII. He is buried in St. Peter's Basilica in Rome. Pope St. Pius X, pray for us. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Montse Alvarado. Good night, and God bless you.